Once a year, a friend and I dedicate a long weekend to an annual writing retreat. This year, we found ourselves in Cooper Lake State Park for the 10th anniversary of our retreats. We originally planned to go to Bastrop State Park in Central Texas, but the recent Texas drought meant that there was a burn ban there. A series of storms that blew through East Texas made sure that Cooper Lake State Park had their burn ban lifted. So at the last minute, we were fortunate to get a cabin in the state park that started it all for our retreats. Every year, I have these grand designs to totally vlog the annual writing retreat, from the very beginning of packing to unpacking. The drive, all the events, everything, getting multiple angles on hikes, that total experience that everybody on YouTube loves. But in 10 years, I've never done it, and this year was no exception. I've always felt like vlogging would get in the way of everything. I can't imagine my friend Deacon sitting there trying to write while I'm getting all these angles of him while he's trying to concentrate. But we still love having those memories, and we always do shoot some footage. So here's a recap of this year's writing retreat. While the burn ban was lifted, lake levels were still low, but that was the least of our worries. This web and that spider were a sign of things to come when it came to creepy, crawly things. First, though, it was time to write. I dedicated the time this year to working on a story for my fiction podcast, Not About Lumberjacks. Each November, in honor of the show's anniversary, I write a lumberjack story. This year, it was a story about a lumberjack alone on the side of a mountain with whomever, or whatever, killed their fellow loggers. And a cabin with this view was the perfect place to work. Since we usually arrive in the afternoon and check in, I was able to get a couple hours of writing in before it was time for dinner. It's funny whenever I talk about the writing retreat because people always envision this grand thing with catered meals and beautiful settings, perfect little rooms where all these writers come together and talk about what they've worked on, not two best buds hanging out in a cabin on the cheap. I'll be honest about the writing retreat. The main reason we do it was the main reason that we switched at the last moment. We love sitting around the fire, talking about writing, music, life, and all those things that matter to us. But when we were going to go to Bastrop State Park with the burn ban, we did have plans for making it at least kind of nice in the evenings. So we still brought along our disco ball and my freaky little LED light with all kinds of effects. Another reason we always plan our retreats in a Texas state park is we love going hiking. Little did we know when we changed our plans that we'd end up like a famous hobbit and his dwarven buddies, lost in the spidery forest of Mirkwood. We only got a few miles in because we had to stop every 10 to 20 yards to take down webs and make sure that the spiders were okay after we passed. But it was still a great and memorable hike. At lunch on Saturday, I learned from the back of a ramen cup that microwaves have a mind of their own. After lunch, it was time to write. And write. And write. My friend Deacon worked on a novel while I almost finished the entire annual lumberjack story for Not About Lumberjacks. It was enough of an effort to merit a nap. And yeah, I'm wearing an eye mask. My wife got a couple of them. And you know what? If you take a nap, I don't care what you think, try one. Saturday night, like the night before, was spent around the fire. The annual retreat is one of the few times I allow myself to talk about works in progress and all my writing plans. Deacon is a person who, I swear, understands what I want to do with my writing and my intent more than I do. So it's always wonderful getting his feedback. When the fire finally dies and we make sure that it's done for the evening, it's time to finally sleep. But even if we're up late the night before, I tend to be an early riser, so I get up, have breakfast, and write a little bit more. Sometimes we go for another hike, and then other times we write a bit more. This year, it felt like we got everything we went there for done a little bit early, so we checked out at 9 o'clock instead of 11. We bid the cabin adieu and hit the road. A missed turn east of Dallas brought us straight through downtown, but it turned out that it was the better route that day. We sailed home, and I walked through the door in time to have lunch with my wife. If you write, I encourage you to grab a friend or two and do something like this. At least in Texas, cabins in state parks are usually anywhere between $85 to $125 a night, so it's affordable. And if you bring your own food, you'll save even more, making sure that you're never more than a tank of gas away from one of the better things you'll do for your writing each year. Hey, if you like this video, I'd appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up or check out a story at nolumberjacks.com. And if you're interested in my writing process, I have a little bit about that right here.